Good evening. Welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar, Designing Sustainable Food Systems for a Better Future, for the planet and for businesses. I'm your moderator, Shirley Lu, Managing Director Asia of ProVac International. Before we kick off today's presentation, let me briefly introduce ProVac. ProVac International is the largest European nonprofit organization for food awareness and plant-based and culture-based innovations. Our mission is to replace consumption of conventional animal products with plant-based and cellular alternatives. ProVac is accredited by the United Nations Environment Assembly. It has permanent observer status with UN Climate Change Convention. ProVac has also received the UN Momentum for Change Award. Why plant-based? We believe plant-based have a couple of benefits. It's good for health, good for animals, for environment, for justice, and it's delicious. Let me give you a few examples of the health benefits of plant-based diets. It provides healthy fats and easily digestible protein, complex carbohydrates, and satiation, good for weight management, lots of vitamins and minerals, and hydration. In terms of the benefits for environment, animal-based products are very resource intensive. Animal-based products is responsible for 16% greenhouse gas emissions. And also it uses 83% of farmland. It also takes 20% of total fresh water. By 2050, there will be 3 more billion population, and we need to generate 50% more food. So how to close the gap? Plant-based is the most efficient diet. Plant-based is also animal-friendly. Over 50 billion farm animals around the world suffer in factory farms. And the intense physical and mental stress experienced by factory-farmed animals hinders their immune system and natural development and makes them unwell. To accelerate plant-based diets, ProVac International launched an innovation challenge in the ASEAN region. Together with 6 other leading food organizations and over 20 schools in Asia, this innovation challenge will invite university students to submit your ideas by March 13th. Scan the QR code and learn the details on how to apply. The winners has a chance to get coaching for 8 weeks and also win cash awards up to 5,000. Outstanding performers also has an opportunity to be hired as intern. Coming up next, we'll have a keynote presentation for 10 minutes, 3 5-minute short talks, followed with a panel discussion. A few housekeeping reminders. All dial-in participants will be muted. And we love to hear your questions and comments, so please submit them via the YouTube chat at any time. Let me introduce today's speakers. We have a very impressive speaker list. First is Dr. Ralph Kaichen, Senior Director for Food and Consumer Cluster at Singapore's Agency for Science, Technology and Research. Ehab Laheta, Vice President, International Business Development of Beyond Meat. Guglielmo Bonora, Singapore's R&D Center Head of Nestle. Fred Zhu, New Product Development Director Asia from Oatly. Dr. Ralph Kaichen will be our keynote presenter today. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Ralph and his presentation.
Thank you, Shirley, and good evening, everyone listening in. And it's a pleasure for me to provide you in a few minutes a bit of an overview of what future of food means or could mean, especially from an innovation side. I would like to start and give you a little bit of an idea how the consumer normally sees food. So the consumer going to the supermarket, it's the field where the farmer is maintaining the crops, harvest, and then it goes to a factory, is packed, ready to be then go to the supermarket. But this is the ideal picture, and actually no longer really the way. Don't try to look at the detail. What I try to show you here is actually how complex the global food system is. And you also have to consider most of the innovations that you do in your area of field if you want to contribute to food innovation. It is a complex area. It has issues, and I will go a little bit later into this. Singapore itself, it was actually built on farming. It was very early on. You see a few pictures here, fruits, vegetables, also gumbe materials that were used in leather industry. And in mid-80s, slowly industry took over, industry outside of agriculture and agri-tech. And now Singapore is importing more than 90% of its food from overseas, has more or less, has less than 1% of land that is still used for agriculture. Some of the water areas around it is used for aquaculture. But Singapore is interested to get less dependent on food imports. Above 90% is pretty high. Singapore is now trying to go into around 30% of their nutritional needs to be produced locally. And this means finding ways to produce food, not only fresh food, food in general, in an urban environment. And this is quite interesting for the whole of Southeast Asia, if we consider that more than 60% of the population is living in an urban environment here. It is also interesting from a food waste perspective, if we consider that most of the waste, agricultural waste in Asia is often happen between the agricultural land and the transport, the supply chain going to the city, going to the consumer. And all this gives interesting areas to look into food innovation. What is also interesting, so Singapore, even there is no primary industry. There is quite a bit of food manufacturing, almost 1,000 companies here that manufacture food, 90% of them local. As a city-state, the market itself is too small. So if a company wants to grow, it really has to look at Southeast Asia. And that is where then also the innovation needs to kick in. A lot of multinational companies have set up their R&D for Southeast Asia in Singapore. So that also makes it quite interesting to understand innovation needs all for the whole of Southeast Asia. So what are major challenges in food and agri-tech research? Sustainability is very high within the food chain. I showed you earlier a picture how complex the food value chain is. So sustainability, not only in the how to grow, it's also how to transport, how to process, and how to bring it to the consumer. Disease ecology, so that means how do I manage food, nutrition, how do I manage the disease in general, not only for the plants or the food, but also for the consumer, metabolic diseases, how can I keep consumers healthy? Then there is function, new function and properties. Quite often that we see that food innovation, there's often more technology again than the consumer might want or feels comfortable with. So there's also a lot that can be done in communicating to consumers, the necessity, the benefits of the innovation that is provided. And then we see there's always a challenge of reduction. What I mean here is there's always a challenge that people want to go back to organic. So there's nothing wrong with it, but to feed the whole world, we really have to see that we have a holistic view on it, and a single system might not be able to work. And again, we have to look here and understand the complexity in the system and how can we innovate there. So in Singapore, so in ASTAR itself, again, we are focusing here very much on Asian consumer at the center. We had to pick areas. We cannot do everything. So with limited resources of funding, it is always necessary to focus the innovation, to focus where you want to build out your capabilities and your training. For us, like I mentioned, at the center, the Asian consumer, safety, efficacy, and sustainability are the areas we are trying to build our innovation around, working here with companies, with universities, and try to push in these areas the knowledge forward. So I mentioned earlier 30 by 30. So by 2030, Singapore would like to achieve 30% of their nutritional needs to be produced locally. What can that mean? It can, again, it is for the own food security. It is also for the benefit of the consumers in Singapore. It has huge challenges in way of transforming the local food and agri sector. And again, I mentioned here nutritional benefits. I mean, there are certain limits. Commodities like rice, corn, or soy is most probably not suitable. So again, here we need to be very carefully pick what areas we invest in. Chosen was urban food production. How can we bring up indoor farming and aquaculture? Chosen was advanced in protein production, alternative proteins. And very central, what you see here at the bottom, is always food safety science and regulation. You don't want to do that at the end of your innovation cycle. You want to really be sure that what you do in your lab and your bench can really go out, and that you don't need to restart when you finally want to bring your innovation to consumers. So what are the challenges here? The challenges due to the time is how much I can do in terms of food, in terms of novel ingredients. How much can I bet on bringing new novel ingredients into the supply chain, into the global food system? There is the replacement, alternative, and artificial. So how do I communicate? I have to avoid also negative words. If I say I want to replace meat, replacement in itself can often lead also to negative perception. So how can I communicate actually the positive side of my innovation and bring that out? And then the benefit to consumers is also, how do I balance between sustainability and health? Can I meet both? Can I, what is more important? What is the bigger driver when I start my business, when I start my innovation? Can I find a balance? At the end, healthy eating is a big driver, but so is sustainability. But it doesn't mean the same. And how do I communicate this? So what are the challenges? We have currently a food system that's more or less built around 12 crops that produce 3/4 of the world's food. We have roughly 150 plant species in the food system. But we have more than 300,000 plants globally available. That is interesting for a source, but we also have to see the challenges, because the supply chain is built around more or less 4 or 5 crops mainly. If I innovate with novel proteins, novel foods, novel crops, what does it mean downstream when I want to implement this? If some big company comes beyond or Nestle and says, can you provide me 3 tons, 30 tons, 100 tons next week? So all these are challenges I should think about as early as possible. When I start my innovation, when I start thinking about what the impact it could have. For Singapore itself, the innovation will not solve alone the 30 by 30. There are also things like regulation. There are things like, how do I provide space? How do I redesign the space? What does it mean in terms of utilities, electricity, water usage, temperature control, contaminations? So all these play a role too. Innovating novel food itself won't solve the 30 by 30. There's a lot that needs to be done in preparation in terms of policies and regulations and other areas. So without further ado, I think Singapore, this is my last slide, has built quite an interesting ecosystem. For innovators, it's not only interesting to find funding. For innovators, it's also interesting to see what ecosystem is provided. Ecosystem in terms of funding through venture capital companies, support through local regulators, support through local ecosystem. And for that, there is quite an interesting system that has been built up. A lot of startup companies, talent need. So all this helps greatly. Like I said, an idea is a good start, but integrating well in the ecosystem is a necessity and helps tremendously then in rooting and having a long-term plan moving forward. So thank you very much for listening, and from here I will hand over to the first panel speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Ralph, for the very inspiring presentation and exciting change. Look forward to see the change happen. Let me introduce the following three speakers. We will have Fred Zhu from Oatly and Guglielmo Bonora from Nestle, Ehab Laheta from Beyond Meat. Each of them is going to give a 5-minute short talk. Without further ado, let's welcome Fred.
Hello, everybody. It's Fred from Oatly, and very nice to meet you here. And let me give you some introductions about the Oatly and the very interesting brand, and also what's in Oatly's history, and what you will do together with Oatly. So, okay, so let's move on. Okay. First, the booming category of the plant-based. This is, everybody knows that it's very amazing in the past several years that the plant-based is a booming category. And the global plant-based beverage market is estimated to be around reach 31.4 billion US dollars in 2026, which will be a huge increase there. When we look into the more details into the different regions of the world, no doubt Asia is the biggest market in the past several years, because of the very traditionally China and Southeast Asia of the traditional habits, eating the plant-based drink like the soy milk and the other plant-based drink is a very traditional habits here, which means that the volume will be very big compared with the other regions of the world. And then also we can see the second, the biggest market is North America. After the outbreak of the COVID-19, Americans started to store goods, and we surprisingly to find that oat milk is on the very priority of their shopping list. And in this chart, we can see it's even much higher than the others, like the masks and the sanitizers. So it's very interesting. The oat milk is the category which with the greatest sales increases in this amid this pandemic. So in one word, since the people all over the world have a rising awareness of the environmental protections and the personal health, so the plant-based category is one of the most booming markets under these current situations. So let's see what the the Oatly. The Oatly previously, I think, is in the 1963. Professor we called Anner he had discovered the lactose intolerance, and it's very amazing. After that, in the 1993, our founder we called Rickert has succeeded in developing a dairy alternative enzyme. And established the Oatly. So this is the history of the Oatly, how the Oatly begins. Next. And why do we do oats? We do oats because of the oats is containing the beta-glucans, and which has the benefit of lowering the blood cholesterol and reducing the risk of the heart disease. Besides that, The oat milk is, how to say, is a more sustainable option compared with to the cow milk. The production of the oat milk has less greenhouse gas emission than the use and energy consumptions. So our goal is to deliver products which can provide a real nutritional value with a minimal environmental impact. Okay, next one is what do we have? Okay, what we have here different categories of the oat milk drinks, and we can see we have the oat milk, we have the oat groat, and we have the oat ice cream, and we have also the oat whipping cream, spread, and cooking creams. So which means that with all these different categories, these can all be used in our different applications during our daily life. So it's widely used now in daily not only in the in the breakfast, but also in the afternoon tea or even in the dinner. And last one is, let's see. Okay, yeah, how to innovate with Oli. Yeah. Currently, we have take three examples here. We have the Bresta, which is our hero product, the oat drink, and also we have the original oat drink, which is just very good and in the retail channels. We also have some new flavors, and the most typical one is the chocolate oat drink. And these three hero products, we have different applications. So that is one of the topics we are going to present to the friends here, which is we can use them in the different daily applications. We can milk the oat milk latte and oat milk tea, which is the very two successful applications in the coffee chains and the tea chains. And we can also do it. We do the smoothie and the juice mix and with the oat milk original in different occasions during our retail channels. Besides that, we are trying something very new and very fancy with our chocolate oat drink, even in some of the cocktails and even in some of the bars. So different of the Oatly original RTD project, and we'll make different changes and in our retail and full service channels. So let the last page. I think it's the So is that you can join our Otis program and to make this fancy innovation project. So okay, so let's see here. Yeah. So the last slide here is that I would like to think sincerely on behalf of the Oatly innovation team to invite you the guys to join the Oatly program and to make fancy with the Oatly friends and to make some very, very fancy innovations, and especially for the RTD, ready to drink beverage applications using our Oatly milk for cafes and full service channels chains. So if you have any great ideas, please just raise your hand and join us, and we can make it a very fancy project later. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. My name is Guglielmo Bonora, and you can call me Gu. And I am the R&D center head for Nestle in Singapore. Maybe we can move to the next slide. So Nestle is the largest food and beverage company in the world. And as an R&D organization, we have three main pillars that drives the research and development. One is based on basic cross-category centralized science. A second is focused on category-specific development in the area of beverage, dairy, and ice cream, and many more. And the third pillar is our regional R&D centers, which are present in certain geography to provide basically local relevance and also help the deployment and development of agile innovation. In the specific case of today, and when it comes to myself, I had both the ice cream and the R&D center. We can move to the next slide. So Nestle has been investing in the recent years quite with a high pace in the area of plant-based food. And here you have just alternatives, dairy alternatives, ice cream, like the case of Häagen-Dazs in Canada, and beverages. We can move to the next slide. The challenge that we want to present to you is the one of plant-based ice cream. Plant-based ice cream is still a relatively small category, but growing rapidly. Globally, we're talking about a business of $690 million, but with a growth of around 80% over the last 4 years. Now, that growth has been mainly concentrated in North America and Europe, but we see an increasing number of innovation coming to market also in Asia. Actually, if we look at the number of innovation that come to market in the recent past, you could see how the dairy one are still predominant but declining, whereas the ones that are on the rising trend are the ones related to plant-based. We can move to the next slide. Now, from R&D Singapore, from the unit that I belong to, we develop ice cream for some of the most iconic brands that you can see in the market, from China and Hong Kong to ASEAN, Canada, and Latin America. Now, for the purpose of our challenge, and we can move to the next slide, we really want you to focus on designing a plant-based ice cream experience that Asian Generation Z will love to eat and share on social media. And there are a few guiding principles that maybe out of our experience we would like to share with you. The first one is that taste is still king. Ice cream is consumed for indulgence and pleasure mainly. So the taste component and indulgence and the surprise, it's still very, very relevant. And that's why we talk about an experience rather than simply a food product. The second thing is related to the driver of why consumers choose plant-based ice cream. There is a lot of in it in relation to the curiosity, of course, to try something new, but it goes beyond that. It's fueled by identification and a desire of expression, of make a statement when choosing a certain proposition. Of course, health play a component in it, but in the hierarchy, of course, it might not be as high as the pleasure and the indulgent, but we see an increasing trend of people choosing ice cream proposition also because they're either good for them or they can do or bring an additional health benefit, what we would call functional ice cream. Last but not least, of course, fundamental, the environmental aspects, the ability to basically have a positive contribution towards the planet. This challenge, I believe, would be extremely exciting, and it would also be relevant in the sense that on top of having access to the personnel at the R&D center, if the proposal will be of interest, we could look at co-development together with our team of ice cream developers in Singapore. So thank you very much for the time.
Good evening, everyone, and good morning from frozen Canada. I'm calling you from Canada this morning. So at Beyond Meat, we look at the whole meat category, not just plant-based category. And the meat category is 1.4 trillion. It's about a third of the food consumption globally. And I'd like to highlight that pork and that's part of your project, is #1 in China in global ranking, and obviously China being the largest country in Asia. Now, this slide is not new. You understand why people are eating plant-based proteins, but in my over 25 years experience in this category, the one aspect that has increased over time is the environmental. It used to be health, it used to be ethical, but the environment is taking more and more space as we speak. And next, we're going to have a video, which we will show you. It's a little under 1 minute.
We are eliminating agriculture's biggest
animal. I hope you'll join us in making them more sustainable.
I hope you'll join us in making them more sustainable
choice of meat from plants.
and the more humane choice of meat from plants.
So Beyond Meat started this category in the meat section, and exciting times are ahead. This next slide I stole from our chairman of the board, Seth Goldman, and if you read it carefully, it's quite interesting. You know, people would have wanted faster horses, and at Beyond Meat, we didn't give them another plant-based burger. We gave them a burger that tastes, feels, smells, and sizzles like actual meat burgers. And it's important to remember that when you look at your task and your project with us. So it's a change in perspective. We don't look at the origin of meat, but the composition of meat. And meat is made of many different things. It's made out of proteins, lipids, minerals, water, and all of these aspects are available in the plant kingdom. So what we do is we take these from plants and we use a simple process of heating, cooling, pressure, and then we try and make the best burger globally that tastes and feels just like animal meat. So please remember that we are looking to replicate the experience of a traditional burger. And there are many, many significant factors, I think Gu mentioned a lot of them. You know, health obviously is very important. But one thing, again, I have to stress is taste is king. You know, in Gu's ice cream, it's got to taste good. Well, the burger's got to taste good. Food is very emotional. People are attached to food and they don't want to compromise. They want something to taste and feel and bite just like they're used to. If not, they won't come back. So as you look at your project, remember that. And last but not least, you know, you look at these QSRs, I mean, they do meat very, very well. And what they've done is they've done the same thing that they're always doing. They just replaced it with plant-based foods, and in this case, Beyond Meat, because they don't want their consumers to compromise. So it's very important as you put your project together to look exactly at those different things that I've mentioned throughout the presentation. Now, if you look at what you need to do, you have to design a series of dishes with Beyond Pork. Pork is huge in Asia. And remember who the target consumer is. Remember what I mentioned earlier in the presentation. Meat eaters are the target consumer, and taste is king. If you want to keep them, it's got to taste good. And I want to thank you for your time, and I wish you all good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all the speakers for your wonderful presentations. Very exciting. So next, we will have a Q&A. In the Q&A session, we welcome you to put in your questions in the YouTube chat. Okay, I'll start with some questions for all of our speakers. What you mentioned about the key your learnings on how to market plant-based products successfully. What are the successful launches you have seen in this region and also in other regions? Many of our audience today are interested in the innovation challenge. So the examples from this region or beyond will be very helpful. Anyone wants to start first? Successful launches in your categories or in others?
Sure. Let me start, Shirley, if you don't mind. We launched recently with Starbucks in Asia, and plant-based foods are not new to the Asian market, but it's no longer just tempeh. So what we want to do is give traditional dishes that people are used to in a plant-based form, and it's quite exciting for millennials and Gen Z to eat something that they're used to that's good for them and good for the planet.
I can go next
ahead.
if you will. For us, there was in Canada we have our Häagen-Dazs brand, and I think a great example that we have seen from the team there is the introduction of non-dairy Häagen-Dazs ice cream in peanut butter and chocolate fudge. And why do I mention the flavor? Because it's interesting how an ice cream, the category has started just by introducing something that was non-dairy, right? They would take a vanilla and make it non-dairy. But because there was a desire from consumer not just to have a plain vanilla version, but a unique non-dairy experience, then we could actually create and innovate using nuts, using dark chocolate, and develop unique taste, unique signature taste that you don't have when you use just dairy. And I think to me that was a great example on how to have a brand that is known for its indulgence, its creaminess, its milkiness, and reinvented with a new experience.
Yeah. There's also a question specifically on oat milk. How do consumers, how does oat milk make sure that it provides all the essential nutrients as compared to the cow milk? Fred, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. Yes. In terms of the oat milk, I think it's a very hot concept in recent years. And previously, before I joined Olay, I also worked for like a Silk, the other plant-based product. And we know that compared with the milk, that like the soy milk and the almond milk, and also can provide like the protein and something else, and the nuts, the nutritionals else. But for the oat milk, I think the focus is not on the protein, but instead we are focused on the fibers, especially the beta-glucans, which can help the consumers and our especially these guys wants to have a very fit and a very lifestyle the body, and when they drink the oat milk, and they can intake more fibers and to make more balance of the whole life, which is something the oat milk represents a new lifestyle, which is very different from the cow milk. So we can say that we will not say it's the replacement of the cow milk, but we can say it's a very nice alternative of the current oat milk, the cow milk. So it's a very nice and fine supplementary the plant-based milk.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Rolf, there is also a question for you that with the 30 by 30 initiative, do you foresee that plant-based will become more popular with the initiative?
Yes, we had over the last 2 years launches of different products beyond one of them. So all this is stirring curiosity. All this is also, again, your consumer millennials specifically, a very high driver, but it's also not that new. I mean, we mentioned earlier, in Asia, it's quite common to use the use of mock meat, the use of soy-based products that you can get here that mimic meat. So people are maybe more used to than in other regions. But yes, we can see that it's getting a lot of attention. And I think it's a good thing. So it's also more choice for consumers to go to. And we see the shelves in supermarkets changing, making more space for plant-based products.
Thank you. It's very exciting to know. Yeah. Ehab, there's a specific questions on Beyond Meat. Consumers or the audience would like to know that how is Beyond Meat offering differing from other plant-based options?
That's an excellent question. So it goes back to the slide about Henry Ford. So what we do differently is we don't just take vegetables and mash them up and put them in a round cylinder and call it a burger. We actually look at the composition of meat, not the origin. So we take the fats, the proteins, the lipids, and the water, and we have over 150 scientists that work on this day in and day out. That's all they do. And what we do is we try and recompose animal fiber so that it tastes, smells, and satiates the way you would a traditional meat burger. So we do things a little bit differently at Beyond Meat.
Thank you. Okay, good. There's also questions on Nestle. The audience asked that Nestle has a wide range of products. Any plan to launch a plant-based milk in Asia?
Excellent question. I would say that it's an area that, of course, is of interest for the group, and we always look for opportunities in the region.
Yeah. There's also a similar question for Oatly as well. Does Oatly plan to launch any unique product in this region, considering the different taste preference?
Yeah, it's a great question here. And thanks for this question. And Oatly has a new strategy, and especially for the Asia region. And previously, we know that we have a hero product, the barista, is using the Starbucks all over the world. So it's a hero product. But we are also trying to focus on the Asia consumers' needs. So a new R&D center and a new innovation team is being set during the past year. So we are focused on the Asian consumers, especially like the China consumers, make the tailor-made products, not only for the oat milk, but also like the cream and the oat gurt and the ice cream for these consumers, which has a very unique the taste, not for the eastern of the Asian consumers, and some very traditional or Chinese style products, which is will be in the China market and Asian market very soon. So looking forward to this. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Ralph. So several of the questions is about innovation and unique and Asia-specific product innovation. I know that Singapore has positioned itself as a kind of innovation hub, innovation springboard for the region. What are Singapore's policies or incentives for innovations, especially for sustainable food innovations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have launched recently a grant which is called the Singapore Food Story, where the government provided 144 million Singapore dollar, a little bit more than 100 million US dollar over 5 years, to support through grants innovation. For this, researchers can apply for, researchers can collaborate with companies to apply for and bring food innovation forward in that space, as one of the examples.
Thank you. Okay. I would also like our food senior professionals like you to share about, yes, there's a lot of potential and your learnings in overcoming the challenges, accelerate consumers' acceptance in this region. Can you also share about that? So we talked about the innovation opportunities in Asia in different categories. Can you also share about your experience and learnings in dealing with the challenges, either from consumer acceptance or maybe from go-to-market in Asia?
So Shirley, let me just jump in for a second. It's important, whether it's Asia or any market, that you deliver a product that is traditional to that market. You just can't assume that the whole world is eating the same as the US market. So you have to adapt. You have to find out what the local jewels are. There are different tastes, and that is one of the reasons why in Asia we launched Beyond Pork. And I know that there was a question on the chat. What is the difference between the texture of Beyond Meat's pork and Omni Pork? And I will never comment on another company's product, but remember what I told you earlier, how we look at Beyond Meat and how we develop Beyond Meat, and we compare it to the animal protein. So I would encourage you to try different products and let us know.
I think from my side, one element that could be interesting to look at is that, and again, I more refer to the ice cream segment, is that in order to deliver the right sensorial experience with plant-based ingredient, there might be the temptation as a shortcut to use a lot of ingredients that might not be the most consumer friendly. And I think the challenge is represented by being able to present a proposition that is incredible in taste, but still that consumer, when they look at the ingredient list, they can understand and they can appreciate, and they can feel it's not alien to what they would normally find in their kitchen cupboard, for example. So I think that to me is one of the challenges that might be a good angle to consider when approaching the ice cream statement.
Yeah, I was jumping, and I fully agree with you, Gu, and Ya's point, and just the innovation. There's a lot of the difficulties in the current innovation, especially for the taste, especially for the plant-based products. When we're going to match the taste of the dairy products, especially in the Asia, in China, so it's a very big challenge. For example, when we are doing the plant-based yogurt, it's quite difficult. We can see in the China markets that the dairy yogurt is performing very well. It tastes everything, the price, cost, the taste, and the new nutrients claims they are all perfect, and even there are no shortcomings here. But when we come into the soil, first the soil and coconut, and then now also base, it will be, how to say, a big challenge here, how to get this same amount of the protein and the taste similar to the dairy products. It will take a lot of the efforts. Some of them will have the very special of note, some of them not very good mouthfeel, and the texture is not so good. So for the R&D part, we are spending more and more time to make it happen, to make it at least to equal or on par to these dairy products. So it will take a long time as a challenge, and with more and more time and more and more efforts here, and so it might be close, but it's quite difficult to be, how to say, to overcome and to be superior a lot than these products. So it's a big challenge here.
Yeah. Some of our audience also asked about pricing. affordability. How can we make plant-based food more affordable or more price competitive as compared to the animal options in both meat and also milk and ice cream categories as well? Yeah. Can you comment on pricing in your respective categories for plant-based offering? Yeah. How is the potential of making plant-based offerings more price competitive, more affordable?
Go ahead, Gu. You go.
Okay, thank you. Look, if I look at the ice cream and I look at a typical composition of a dairy ice cream, you would have already intrinsically quite a bit of milk and milk fat. And, you know, if I take the price of anhydrous milk fat, you know, in the last, I don't know, 5 years, we'll be talking about $5,000 a ton. And I think plant-based has unique advantage of being also more cost competitive. If I take plant-based fat, it will be probably a fifth of that. So I think plant-based, among all, is these, you know, if we harness the goodness of the plants and the ingredients, has a unique advantage to be more cost competitive and maybe even less subjective to price shock. We have seen huge price volatility in the dairy derivatives market over the last 5 years, and I think you don't see the same level when you look at plant-based ingredients. So for me, I see it as a great opportunity also to provide affordability, provided that you match the taste expectation. Again, if taste is not there, it could be half of the price, but still it might not have the same pickup, especially for a product like ice cream that is consumed for pleasure and indulgence.
Thanks, Gu. And at Beyond Meat, our CEO has stated that, you know, over the next 5 years, we want to be at parity with at least one animal protein. And, you know, cost is a barrier to some people. And as, you know, the supply chain becomes more mature, you will see costs coming down over time.
Yeah, and also it's within the the global strategy that the very mature supply chain, especially localization, this strategy is now set to make all these products more close to the market and the price is more, how to say, more close to the dairy products. And we in the US, now in China, in Asia, we have the plans. And it's already made to build the local factories, which will, how to say, will significantly reduce the high cost of the shipping from import from the European or the US to the China to the Asia, which is one solution to make it. And also we are going to find different alternatives of the ingredient sourcing and try to lower down the cost with the same quality. So I think it may need some time, but in the near future, this how to say, it will make the products more and more competitive from the cost of perspective.
When will the plant in Asia start operation?
This is it's already in the pipeline and it's already fixed, but the timing will be, how to say, to be confirmed soon.
Thank you. Ehab, there is a quick question. Is Beyond Pork Halal considered as Halal?
That's a great question. And we were serving sausages at Gulf Foods in Dubai, and we had the same question. Yes, obviously it's not coming from animals, but in most of our plants, we're also halal certified as well. So it is obviously halal because there's no there's no animal use, but we also are certified in most of our facilities, and kosher as well.
Great. Okay. I have a question for all speakers. I think your plant-based innovations all aimed to replace conventional animal products. What would the world be like if meat, milk, ice creams, 50% of the animal offerings are replaced with plant-based offerings? What would be the benefit, the impact?
Maybe I start from a pure innovation perspective. I think it would be fantastic. It would be exciting because at the end, it provides us the next step in evolution of what we are eating. I always see back at how I grew up. I mean, Ehab mentioned earlier the emotional connection we have to food. It's also the emotion we have grown up with the food. I was still involved with my grandparents in slaughtering a pig here and there, or slaughtering a chicken. My kids have no longer experienced that. For them, food is really based on taste, texture, liking, and what they enjoy. So I think if we can push these type of innovations further, it could be really exciting how our food will evolve over the next 10 to 20 years.
I'll answer that, Shirley. I think we hope people will still be eating the same foods that they like. You know, they won't change any of their habits because it'll be just as good and it won't cost any more. And just the planet will be a better place. We'll have more water, we'll use less land and fewer gas house emissions and less energy. So hopefully just the same, but better.
Yeah, I think it's all the guys is loving to see in the near future. Like our CEO Tony Peterson just several days ago, seeing the song on the Super Bowl in the U.S. There's no cows, because we are fully believing that within the consuming more plant-based, not only the oats but also the other plant-based things, that we can less consume the cow milk, and to make the benefits to environmental. And we made a very detailed sustainability report of the 2019 in the several months ago, which we have a very complete of the chain of the calculating the carbon dioxide release, the report from each of the stage of the whole, from the whole chain, from the raw material to the production, and even to the final transportation. And we have the calculation numbers here. So with these numbers, and we made the calculation here, and we provide to our consumers, and to see that with consuming the oat milk, and it can reducing how much of the carbon dioxide release. So this is something that we are always doing, and looking forward to we can get some very nice breakthrough of the environmental benefits in the next several years. So hopefully we can see it very soon.
I can only echo what the panel said, and it will be an important component if the industry wants to achieve carbon neutrality.
Shirley, it's Ehab. I need to excuse myself. I have another commitment, so I want to wish everyone good luck, and I hope to meet you soon one day.
Shirley, you're on mute.
Okay. So thank you, Ehab, for joining us today, and also for his wonderful presentation. My last question is, many of the audience is not only interested in a sustainable food system, in the future of plant-based food, but they are very interested in innovation. So I'd like to invite Dr. Ralph to give advice to the young innovator, and Fred and also Gu to encourage especially the student audience, to provide ideas to your topics, what incentives and why should they choose your topic? Yeah, so let's start with Dr. Ralph.
Yeah, at the end, you can develop the most healthy, the most sustainable food in the world. If your consumer is not eating it, you will have failed. So it's coming back again is what is your consumer liking? What are the drivers for them? Taste, and the other one would be what type of innovation should I look at? And I think what we see often is that most innovation in the food space is actually coming from outside of food science. So look beyond your field, look at material research, look at other areas of research, and see what you can bring together to actually solve the problem that you're looking at.
Who or Fred, who you want to start? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I can go first. Oh no, Fred, go ahead, please.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, a very quick, how to say, innovative. Here, I think, for the young friends here, I think doing something innovation is something very, like in the early style is very fun. And so when you are in the old, so when you are in early and because I'm not a very, how to say, stay in the FMCG companies for 25 years, and but then in early it's only half a year, but it makes everybody, including me, very younger. So you are doing everything very fancy, and so innovation should not be, how to say, a task. It should not be something a homework for you to do. It's something very funny, and you're in the early project. It's something you are doing some very funny things, and you are playing, and you are doing some things which benefit to the earth, benefit to the girl, to this everybody, but it's with funds. So doing innovation with funds, it's what we're doing here.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
From the Nestle side, I think we have a program in R&D Singapore. It's called R&D Accelerator, and we welcome the brightest and most interesting and innovative ideas together with the person that come up with the idea to join the program that lasts 6 months. And in 6 months, we put the structure, the know-how of our organization in the area of pilot plant, food safety, regulation, formulation, to bring the idea to life in a shop test, to see if beyond being a brilliant idea on the paper, it can survive the test of the shop. And I think if we have a bright idea, we would be more than happy to put it in this program.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm very motivated to join the Innovation Challenge. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for all our panelists. Last but not least, today we have some early submissions, and the lucky draw winner is from Malaysia. Congratulations to Isabella Ge and Eng Xin Fan. Isabella from IMU and Eng Xin Fan from UTAR. I think they are also listening to our webinar. Each of the students will win $25 Sing equivalent to local currencies, a local coupon. Congratulations. Okay. Our next webinar will be March 2nd. In the next webinar, we will also do lucky draw with the early submissions. The Innovation Challenge, again, is due on March 13th. We welcome the young and bright students to put in your ideas to make our food systems with more innovative, quality, healthy, and nutritious plant-based offerings. We also want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for all the participating organizations. Please scan the QR code to find more details, and also find out the innovation topics from each of the organization. Let your creativity shine. With that, I want to thank you for all of your participation, and big thanks again for all of our speakers for your great sharing today. Thank you. Have a nice evening.